Imagine a sprint training device that can let you do both resisted and assisted sprints in a safe and controlled way while also gathering valuable data on each run. That is what the 1080 Sprint 2 can offer. It's one of the most wanted sprint training devices at the moment, and in this video we'll go over everything this device offers, how to set it up, and what every button and tab does. Now, this machine is an improvement on the 1080 Sprint 1, which was heavily used by elite athletes, not only in the track and field space, but also in the team sports and even in rehab facilities. The main holdbacks of this first iteration was the size, portability and the placement restrictions because of the constant need to be plugged into a socket for power. And the Sprint 2 is an improvement on each of these parameters. While we get the Sprint 2 out of its travel case, the first thing you notice is its size, which is 1/3 of the Sprint 1. While being smaller than its predecessor, it still weighs quite a bit, 25 kilos or 55 pounds to be exact. And lifting it in and out of the trunk of my car in the travel case is a small struggle. Luckily, you don't need to lift this device all that much because it has a pair of wheels, and thanks to the attachable handle that quickly attaches and detaches, the Sprint 2 is easy to transport anywhere. Now, to be honest, I'm quite happy we got the travel case added as well, because while this does feel like a pretty sturdy piece of equipment, it's quite an investment at a cost of 15,000 euros or $16,500, and I want to be sure that I don't accidentally break it by bumping into random things while traveling around. Besides the travel case, there are a few other accessories you can buy. The track spikes for better grip, the wall or squat rack mount, and a software license for data storage and more. The Sprint 2 as well as the accessories can almost only be bought via a middleman like the Simply Faster webshop, which we've linked in the description below, so you can do your own research via the links below if you want to. Continuing on the back of the Sprint 2, where we got the attachable handle, you also got the charging port for the 41.4 volt 16 watt universal charger. The length of the cord is only 2 meters, which is 6 feet, so make sure to always check the battery before bringing this to the track, or make sure you got an extension cord with you, because chances are that if the battery is dead, you won't find a power port within 6 feet of the start line or wherever you are on the track. Fully charged, the battery can last a long time. 1 hour of continuous use depleted the battery by about 10 to 15%, going from 95 charged to about 82 to 81%. So if you are going to use this daily, you might need to charge it about once a week or every 2 weeks. Charging the battery from 20% all the way to 100 took us about 2 hours and 30 minutes. So even if you forget to charge a device before a training session, plugging it in during the warm-up will normally give you enough battery life to complete a training session. On the front of the device, we got the power button to turn on the Sprint 2. We also got the most important thing, the 120-meter rope that will resist or assist a running athlete. The end of the rope is tucked away in this little gap in the machine and can be locked or unlocked by pushing this knob sideways. This way the rope isn't dangling around when traveling. This lock system also comes in handy when applying a load to the athlete. The claims are that there is a continuous load that can be applied of up to 20 kilograms or 44 pounds, with movements up to 14 meters per second or 31 miles per hour in gear 1, meaning you just take the end of the rope, attach it to the athlete and dial in the load on the screen, which we'll come to in a minute. In gear 2, however, a continuous load of up to 40 kilograms or 88 pounds with movements up to 7 meters per second or 15.5 miles per hour can be achieved. To set the machine in gear 2, you put the rope through the pulley that comes standardly delivered, and then you lock the end of the rope into the gap we showed earlier, and the machine is set in gear 2 mode. The last button you have on the front of the machine is the emergency button. When you encounter a crisis situation, press this button to release all tension from the rope and put the whole system down. That brings us to the top of the machine where the display is located with which you control the system. Before we talk some more about that experience, let's turn on the device so you can see how that goes. This 7-inch adjustable display can be rotated 180 degrees, so it doesn't matter if you are standing next to the athlete while operating the device or behind the Sprint 2, you'll always be able to operate the touchscreen. It also has a USB-C port with a cap on it to connect a tablet or laptop. A big bonus is that you actually don't even need a coach or assistant around to operate it, which couldn't be done with the Sprint 1. When you press the power button, the screen will light up, and after a few loading screens, you'll see the main menu where you can choose the type of training you want to do. Resisted, assisted, isometric, reps, change of direction, isokinetic or open training. On the left side of the screen, you have the shutdown button, which will let you reboot or shut down the device. And below that, you have the settings menu, with first the general settings, brightness, volume and the units, below that the Wi-Fi settings, and below that the tab for software updates. The last settings tab is the About page with machine name, type, etc. Now back to the main screen, where on the top right side you'll find the battery, Wi-Fi signal, and on the left side of that you got the icon to put the device in Gear 2 mode for higher loads. If you do this, then don't forget to also attach the pulley, otherwise the executed load will not be the same as the shown load on the device. Let's go into the first training type, resisted sprints. Before you can start, the 0 point needs to be determined. The Sprint 2 gives a short infograph on how to set an ideal 0 point for each training type. The important thing here is that the start position of the athlete should be 1 meter away from the start of the no-pull zone. Once the 0 point is set, you dial in the resistance, whether you use a pulley or not, and how quick you want the line to retract once you finished your sprint. What we did find, however, was that the two 1080 motion sprint belts, which come standard with the Sprint 2, don't hold their size very well if you use higher sprint loads. So we started to tie the belts once it was adjusted to the athlete's waist. If this solution does not hold, we might need to get another belt. 1080 Motion does sell a heavy-duty belt with a stronger lock, but I don't know if it's worth €95 or $100. Each and every rep you do gets displayed in the middle of the screen. And if you want to switch the parameters you want to track, you just tap the top speed or distance icon to switch those. For assisted sprints, you also determine a 0 point, but the setup is a bit different because you run towards the Sprint 2. The 0 point for these type of training sessions should be beyond the finish line. How far beyond, that you determine yourself depending on the available space and specific training you want to do. After setting the 0 point, you only need to dial in the load that you want to assist you, let the athlete walk to the start line, and once he or she starts running, the line will pull back with the strength of the dialed-in load. For the assisted sprints, the quick release strap can be used, but of all the athletes I have seen doing assisted or overspeed training with the Sprint 2 or 1, very few to almost none have done this with this strap. Most of the time a different belt with a hook pointing down is used. The carabiner gets placed into the hook on the belt, and when the athlete sprints past the 0 point, the rope just falls down and the athlete freely sprints past it. The tests we have done with the quick release strap went just fine. It took the athletes a few runs to get used to grabbing the yellow loop, but after a few runs they could fluidly set themselves free. The next training profile is change of direction. After setting the 0 point in this mode, you need to stay at least 0.15 meters away from that 0 point to be able to correctly execute a change of direction movement. Here you also get to choose the concentric and eccentric load you want to use. When you increase the eccentric load, you'll get a pop-up screen reminding you of the risk that high eccentric loads bring with them. If the loads are dialed in, you'll see at the top of the screen that the total time will be displayed and that you're in the auto setting. This auto setting is only to be used if the start and stop of your movement are in the same spot. If you first have a longer resisted sprint or an assisted sprint before going into your change of direction movement, you switch the auto mode into assisted or resisted mode. Once that's all done, you can test your 505 or whatever linear change of direction movement you want to make. Just make sure you use the COD belt that gets standardly delivered with the Sprint 2. This is the belt with the 3 D-swivel rings. This belt also has no adjustable lock and leaves room for the athlete to rotate and shift around in the belt. Starting on the lower row of the training modes, we have the reps. This is meant more for repetitive movements where the extra attachments that can be bought come in. You can track squats or jumps with the base plate that the Sprint 2 clicks into, or with the rack or wall mounts to attach the Sprint 2 to a squat rack. A 0 point is set for this mode as well, and after that you choose a concentric and eccentric load, whether you use the pulley and what line return speed you want. Parameter-wise, you can choose to view the averages or peaks, the force, power, speed, and whether you want this from the concentric or eccentric phase. For the isokinetic mode, where the speed is fixed no matter how much force you apply, you can set a 0 point afterwards, but first you need to do 3 reps of the movement you want to train. The device will measure the speed of these reps and determine how quick the line will need to detract during your movements. Just like with the reps mode, you have the same variables for the load that you can customize. And you can choose again to view the averages or peaks, the force, power, speed, and whether you want this for the concentric or eccentric phase. The third mode on the bottom row is the open training mode. Here you have a lot of parameters and options to play around with. For starters, you can choose the concentric and eccentric load, the concentric and eccentric speed limit, and finally you can choose between normal, NFW or non-flying weight mode, isotonic or calibration mode. This means you can really play around with the stimulus you want to give to your athlete and dial in each and every parameter, which is not always possible in some of the other training modes. For instance, during an overspeed training session, you might choose to do it in open training mode and dial in a specific speed for the line to retract instead of choosing the assisted sprint mode where you can only play around with the load. As you might get from all of this, the Sprint 2 is a multifunctional device offering high qualitative resisted or assisted training. But this device is sadly enough not for everybody, mainly because of its high price, coming in at 15,000 euros or 16,500 US dollars, VAT not included. So who is it for then? Mostly sports federations, elite training facilities, and elite rehab centers or private training groups. But if you ever get a chance to get one, this device can be a very valuable tool to have. If you made it this far, give the video a like, it truly helps out a lot, and if you want to see our unboxing of the 1080 Sprint 2, watch the video on the top right.